Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we're sitting down with ex-pro player and absolute McCree god IDDQD to go over some tips on how to improve your skill with this new iteration of McCree, going over getting better aim, also using some of the abilities, and general playstyles. Do you stay with your team, do you go on mad flanks, that kind of stuff. You can check out all of IDDQD's details in the description and comments below, but let's get started. We had you in another video, IDDQD, but in case anybody missed it and just wants tips on McCree, why should they listen to you on how to get good on this iteration of McCree at least?
Well, I think as a former, I'm not a former, but still as a very much dominant McCree main, and that's basically the character that I've been playing since the start of Overwatch and to the very end, and I still feel like McCree is my strongest character to date. I feel in today's day and age, I feel like with McCree's buff that came into play, I think he becomes more of a flanker character right now. And I feel like I played sort of this playstyle back when I was coming into the professional scene and starting to make my name for it. I was always known for the left clicking, kind of flanking McCree as well. And I feel like this buff really speaks to that sort of playstyle. And I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the timings and when to do this and when to do that. And I feel like this iteration of McCree really speaks to this sort of flanking / assaulting McCree rather than the one standing behind the shield.
No doubt when it comes to learning a hero like McCree, the first thing that people are going to ask is, how do you get good aim? So like, it's obviously a thing where you can't give a solid answer. It's not as if players aren't doing a certain thing that's stopping them from maybe improving their aim, but from your perspective, how have you improved your aim, and what tips would you give for somebody that wants to just get good at aiming in any game, really?
Well, almost like my father said when I was young, you need to get your ass kicked to know what went wrong. And there's only so much of that you can handle before you get frustrated. But every single ass kicking is one for sort of a lesson on how to do better. I know it sounds cliche, but it is the truth. Practically the most asked question is, like you said, how do I get good? How do I get good aim? Well, first and foremost, maybe we shouldn't compare ourselves to among the best aimers within the scene, right? Not that I'm claiming that I am, but maybe we shouldn't be comparing someone who started an FPS game a year ago to someone who's been playing FPS games for 15 years, right? Obviously, if you and me, Ryan, decides to play basketball and we go up against, I don't know, say Kobe Bryant or whatever, we're not going to have a chance. Why? Because we started and he's been going at it for his whole life. Everything that people are good at takes time. You don't become a star overnight. The only pro tip I can give you is never ever get discouraged. If you have a dream, you follow your dream. And if you know the path to success, you continue that success regardless of what the person next of you is saying, in front of you or behind you. Don't give a damn, chase your dream and you will get there. It's going to be a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but you will 100% get there.
There's definitely like new mechanics now to the left click too that I wanted to touch on. Now that you can aim and shoot a lot faster than he could before. Are there any like changes in your playstyle to adapt to that? Because I feel like there might be a lot of players that have good aim, but are not prepared on how fast the left click can fire now, that they're just like, oh shit, I can't like get this under control. Like, how have you found success with the new left click?
And also that's a very good question, Ryan. And I think one of the few things that I get asked the most as well is, on top of what you just mentioned, a lot of people go for it. Do you hold left click or do you click it? And I think you always have more control left clicking. Even if you click as fast as you possibly could, you'd get very close to just holding the button in. But it's sort of just, you feel like you have more control if you click it rather than you holding it in. And trust me, it will build some form of muscle memory. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but you will just learn how to handle it better if you're left clicking it, because it feels like you're almost counting the clicks so you know what you're doing. And when that starts to sort of work in your brain systematically, that's when you want to start kind of going for the flanks. And even if you get shit on for, let's say, a month or a week straight, who cares? Just keep doing it. Eventually it's going to click, and eventually you're going to start to pop off. And like I always say, you just go out there and start killing some people in Overwatch, because you won't get better. You're sitting there worrying about your rank. Go out there and, be somebody. Basically, be the new McCree if you want to. You just don't get discouraged.
Before we get into like specific areas such as abilities and stuff, do you have any like other tips on play style, I suppose, with McCree that people could maybe learn from? Like you sort of mentioned a flanking style, but positioning, any certain abilities that you feel players are using wrong. What aspects stand out to you when it comes to watching like a Plat McCree play and you go, why does nobody do X? What is that thing to you?
I think a lot of players play McCree the same way, regardless of what composition you have in front of you, and that is entirely not, that's not the right way to play McCree. You need to always keep tabs on what the enemy is running. If there is a Widow, you obviously play slightly more safe. And if you know there's a Widow and you're feeling a little bit, you're feeling a little bit cocky, you could always sort of try and get a feel for where the Widow shots are coming from and to sort of use that to your advantage. If you hear a Widow to the right, you obviously can flank a little bit to the left. It's also good to know map knowledge. It's good to just go into spectator mode and sort of learn the rights and ups and downs and the angles of maps, because they do matter. They matter more so than you think. And if there isn't a Widow, if there isn't a Hanzo, hell, just go on straight on flanks. Sort of try and memorize sort of the abilities of what the enemy team has. The Roadhog doesn't have heal up. Well, then go straight in. Call for a Discord. Go straight in and, make sure that your team is with you. If the Hanzo and the Widow sort of sits together, well, you have the strongest tool against them if you get to be up close to them, which is Flashbang. I personally said it earlier today, but I'm going to reiterate it again. I think the best way to play McCree in this iteration of McCree is to be playing a heavy flanking style if you're up against sort of maybe a mirror McCree and a Widow. But if they're running double sniper, you sort of want to make it known to them that you aren't afraid to take duels. And if you're losing it, and if you're not doing properly, if you're not doing well enough against double sniper, you can always sit behind the shields. But I do think that the strongest in ranges of McCree in this particular meta has to be a flanking McCree.
Sort of going over McCree's very limited utility that he has with Fan the Hammer, his role, and Flashbang. What stands out to you when it comes to giving tips? Because none of these abilities in themselves are very impactful, perhaps, and you might not use them an awful lot, but surely there's some other areas that people can gain some information when it comes to using them.
Absolutely. Personally, and I've said this before, and it's sort of a running meme right now, especially my Twitch and my stream, but in general, do not use High Noon for its intended purpose. Use it for a reload. And what I mean by that is, basically, you click Q, and then you click Q again. And the reason why you would do that is because you want the instant reload. And you might ask, what is an instant reload? Well, let's say you shoot 6 bullets, or you fan the hammer a target. Let's say you're up against a Roadhog who doesn't have a heal. So you flashbang him, and you right-click him. And now, all of a sudden, he's got 20% HP left, but he doesn't have a heal. But he does have his hook on up for him to kill you. But if you cancel your ultimate as soon as you press it out, that means that you will get 6 new bullets and don't have to go through the reload animation, and that quick animation for reload will be able to secure the kill on a tank that it normally wouldn't do if you didn't do it. So try and practice the cancel ult McCree. It will benefit you so much more once you start to hit the higher ranks. And people are going to ask you what the hell you're doing, but ignore them because it actually works. And I don't think I ever used the High Noon for its intended purpose more so than an instant reload. With the drastic increase of bunker meta in ranked, I'm going to assume that we're giving tips to people playing ranked consistently or quick play or arcade. Flashbang doesn't really have that strong of a utility tool right now. It is sort of strong for the sake of shutting down Roadhog's heal. It is, I guess, sort of strong to make sure that a character stands still around the corner if you want to kill them. But more so than not, I think Flashbang is more of a tool that you sort of hold in your pocket. You don't really throw it out there. If you're playing against the Genji and he's reflecting in your face, throw it at the ground, just at your feet. That way he can't reflect it and you'll hit him and you get a secure Flashbang kill. I honestly think that's about it. He isn't really that complicated. There isn't really a lot of tips you can do or give with McCree. I think the map knowledge and knowing where to go and knowing what enemy team is having in their ultis up, or if they sort of are flanking, kind of keep control of that. He's either the best flanker in the game or he's also the best character to stop flanker in the game, unless you're playing against a Widow. But honestly, McCree is sort of a, left click show off kind of cowboy. He doesn't really have that big of a utility set when it comes to his abilities. They are sort of dull and boring. unfortunately.
We sort of mentioned like some mistakes on playing McCree in a very almost conservative playstyle like throughout, or playing him in situations, in a style in situations that doesn't suit him. Mechanically, is there anything that stands out to you as something that you wish people did less of? Like holding left click being one of them. Are there any other areas that you wanted to highlight?
I respect McCree's that understand that he is by far the loudest character in the game when he walks and when he crouches, and there's ways around this by, you know, crouching or stuff like that. I'm really impressed by how people sort of find ways around the fact that he has a huge hitbox. He sort of has this really loud movement when he walks around. I sort of interest me in how people can randomize dodging patterns, how they, you know, press S or press D or whatever keystroke you're using to sidestep or strafe. But I always like to call it the 1-2-1-2-2-1, which basically is you move 1 to the left, you move 2 to the right, 1 to the left, 2 to the right, and then you do 2 to the left and 1 to the right. And it always seems to catch people off guard, and maybe you can make use of it. If not, that's cool too, but that 1-2-1-2-2-1 has certainly worked for me ever since I started playing Overwatch, and it might work for you, so keep that in mind.
And I guess, is there any final things that you want to go over? Any other final tips that you want to give people that might be trying to learn this hero?
I think if you aren't flanking, and if you aren't flanking, or if you aren't stopping a flanker, always try and secure high ground, no matter where you are on the map. Unless you're playing as a really, really good Widowmaker who obviously has the distance on you, but you should always try and find the high ground as much as you possibly can. And I think the only intended purpose for a high noon, and I forgot to mention this, but if the enemy team is running sort of, you know, a Transcendence or whatever, and that is one of the only scenarios where high noon is actually a pretty darn good ultimate. If you're playing against a Zenyatta who doesn't really know what he's doing, he's not going to run up to your high noon and block the high noon bullets, because a Transcendence can actually block all of the high noon bullets if he stands in front of you. But if he doesn't do that properly, high noon is actually a really, really, really good tool for whenever the team has Transcendence, because that Transcendence is not going to help them at all when you're actually one-shotting heroes left and right. So keep that in mind as well. I forgot to add that. That's actually really important.
Again, where can people find more of you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/IDDQD, or you can hit me up on Twitter where you can catch updates about my daily life, or basically when I go live on Twitch as well. And the handle on Twitter is IDDQD.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I said, do check out all of IDDQD's stuff. He was a real pleasure to work with. But thanks again for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Take care. We'll see you soon.